In the frozen Barents Sea, where fog and waves blend into a sheet of gray steel, a faint radio signal cracked through the static, and then vanished. No one on the surface knew that this would be the last call for help ever sent. Deep below, the Soviet submarine Komsomolets lay only a few hundred meters from the surface. Inside, 69 men were fighting an enemy they couldn't see. Fear, smoke, and the suffocating silence of melting steel. No warning, no reply. Only a few broken words slipping through layers of noise. We have surfaced fire in compartment 7 requesting immediate assistance. And then silence. The sea grew still again, as if nothing had happened. But beneath that stillness, the submarine was dying. Metal groaned, heat twisted the air, and terrified eyes glimmered in the flickering red light. No one above knew what had just begun. A faint signal, then nothing. And all its men, swallowed whole, taking with them a secret that would remain buried for decades. This wasn't just an accident. It was the dying whisper of an empire. And it began on a morning so calm. No one thought the sea could betray them. The year was 1989th. Final winter of the Soviet Union. The walls of ideology were cracking. The empire was rotting from within. But under the Arctic waters, another world continued, a silent chessboard of steel and secrets. The K-278 Komsomolets was the jewel of Soviet engineering, a titanium monster capable of diving deeper than any Western submarine. She was called the Golden Fish, a name that spoke of her cost and of her promise. Yet behind that brilliance lay decay. Factories were failing. Budgets shrinking, engineers vanishing. The Komsomolets wasn't just a weapon. She was a desperate proof that the empire still had teeth. Aboard were 69 men, hand-picked and proud. Their captain, Evgeny Vanin, 41, calm and sharp-eyed, as cold as steel, but kind as the sea, his crew would say. For him, this mission wasn't duty, it was destiny. When the submarine departed from Zapadnaya Litsa, fog wrapped the harbor like a shroud. Families stood on the pier, waving through white breath. No one knew this would be the last time they'd see those gray uniforms. The horn wailed, deep and solemn. Vanin stood tall on deck, eyes fixed on the horizon where sea and sky melted into one endless shade of gray. Behind him, a young officer asked softly,
"Captain,
do you think we're sailing into history?" Vanin replied without turning, "Every ship sails into history. The question is, who returns?" Those words, spoken quietly against the wind, would echo through the Soviet Navy for decades. As the last light of land disappeared behind them, the Komsomolets slipped into darkness, not just into the sea, but into the final descent of an empire. April 4th, 1989. The Arctic wind bit hard as the Komsomolets left the shallows and sank toward the black. Inside, everything trembled slightly, the hum of the reactor, the pulse of machinery that never slept. Captain Vanin stood beside the control board, his hand resting on the steel hull. "She's singing," he said quietly. A young officer frowned. "Singing?" Sir Vanin nodded. "When steel groans, it's alive. If you listen closely, you can hear her survive." The submarine dove deeper, 400 meters, until light disappeared completely. Only the faint glow of control panels remained, casting pale halos on tired faces. On the second day, engineers noticed a slight pressure rise in the aft section. One cooling pipe made a faint hiss like a sigh. They logged it as minor, nothing to worry about. But Vanin frowned. pouring tea into his metal cup, eyes fixed on the map like a man reading an omen. That night, a sailor wrote in his journal, "There are no stars here. Only black. I miss the sky. But when I see how calm everyone looks, I fear that calm the most." By the fourth day, the submarine reached deep water, over 1,000 meters down. At that depth, a mistake the size of a fingertip could mean death. Komsomolets glided silently, a shadow beneath ice. On the thermal monitor, a tiny red dot blinked, slightly warmer in compartment 7. The chief engineer hesitated. Temperature's up a few degrees. Vanin leaned closer, eyes narrow. "The sea is never this quiet," he murmured. No one understood what he meant. But that night, many stayed awake. Some said they could feel it, the pressure in the walls. The sea holding its breath, waiting. April 7th, 1989.11. 2 a.m. A metallic hiss echoed through the machinery room, soft, almost harmless. Then a red light blinked. Pressure anomaly, compartment 7. The crew moved fast. "It's probably the sensor," someone said, but his voice shook. Vanning glanced at the screen flashing red. "Check it again." His tone was low, but heavy, like a man who already knew the answer. Then came a single click, and fire. A spark leapt from a high-pressure valve, meeting oil vapors. In 2 seconds, the entire compartment was in flames. Smoke poured through the vents, thick and black. Oxygen dropped. The ship's lights flickered crimson, and alarms screamed through every corridor. One engineer slammed the emergency seal. "Nothing. Hydraulics dead.
Can't lock it."
Pressure's rising!" exclamation. Vanin's order cut through the chaos. "Surface, immediately." The submarine groaned as it rose, its titanium hull twisting under the strain.
At 11:15 a.m.
Komsomolets broke the surface. But it was already burning. Flames burst from the vents, smoke rolled into the freezing air. The sea hissed as metal met ice. On deck, sailors coughed and stumbled. One tried to release the life rafts. They melted in his hands. Vanin grabbed the backup radio. Static. Then. His voice calm, strained, breaking through noise. "We have surface fire in compartment 7 requesting immediate assistance." The message crackled once, then vanished. Wind screamed across the deck. Waves struck the hull like hammer blows. Inside, fire fed on cables and paint. A young sailor clutched a photo of his wife and daughter, whispering, "I'll make it home, I swear." No one answered. Only the groaning of steel, the snap of burning wires, and the sound of men breathing through fear. The world's deepest submarine was now a burning coffin adrift in the coldest sea on Earth. And from that moment on, the clock was ticking. 6 hours before silence. 11:40 a.m. The Komsomolets had surfaced, but survival was slipping away. Black smoke blanketed the deck. Men crawled, coughing, eyes stinging. The air smelled of salt, metal, and burning rubber. Captain Vanin shouted, "Teams, fight the fire. Prepare the rafts." But when they pulled out the lifeboats, they crumbled. Rubber melted into tar. One young sailor tied a rope around his waist.
"Captain won't make it."
Vanin said nothing. He touched the hull so hot it burned his skin. "Hold on," he whispered. "They'll find us soon." But no one knew where they were. The radio was dead. The ship had vanished from radar. Waves rose higher. Men climbed onto the conning tower to escape the smoke. The wind howled. A sailor slipped, vanished. No one even had the strength to scream.
"Stay together?"
Vanin roared, his voice half command, half prayer. A man pulled out his logbook with frozen hands. Writing the final words, 11:55 a.m., the ship tilts, the fire burns, still hope. By 2:10 p.m., the aft section was underwater. The flames hissed and died as seawater rushed in. The Komsomolets began to sink slowly, cruelly. Vannin ordered the last men to abandon ship. They lashed broken boards and debris into makeshift rafts. He remained behind, looking out across the gray sea. He whispered, "Don't fear the ocean. Fear its silence." Those were his final words. At 5:08 p.m., the submarine slipped beneath the waves. Only the wind remained and 33 survivors. Adrift, facing a far crueler enemy. Then fire: the cold. When night fell, only a few lights flickered on the freezing water, burning debris. Lifeboats. The dying. 9 hours later, a Soviet helicopter finally reached the area. No coordinates, only fragments of static. By the time rescuers arrived, most men were unconscious. Some died during the rescue itself. Out of 69, only 27 survived. The rest vanished into the deep. The next morning, Soviet newspapers carried a single line. A submarine encountered an incident at sea. Casualties reported. No names. No details. No truth. Families received telegrams. Your husband died in the line of duty. Do not inquire further. Silence was the new uniform. Survivors were isolated, interrogated, forced to sign papers, forbidding them from speaking. 3 years later, when the Soviet Union collapsed, the truth emerged. The Komsomolets carried 2 nuclear warheads and a live reactor. It had been leaking radiation ever since. Investigations were opened. No one was blamed. Every report concluded, no fault, accidental cause. But fishermen near Norway found dead fish washing ashore, and scientists detected rising radiation levels. The sea, once silent, was now whispering back. In a naval museum, a photo of Komsomolets hangs in a steel frame. Below it, a plaque reads, "For the motherland." No list of names. Just absence. Years later, a retired engineer, one of the few survivors, spoke softly in an interview. They didn't die because of the sea. They died because of silence. He paused, eyes distant. When truth is buried, the ocean tells it for us. And it speaks through loss. 36 years have passed. On maps, the Komsomolets is only a dot in the endless Barents Sea. No patrols. No stations. Just waves and silence. But for the families, the sea never quieted. Every burst of radio static still feels like a heartbeat. That old recording. We have surfaced fire in compartment 7 still echoes in their memory. In 2007, Norwegian divers reached the wreck 1,700 meters below. Their lights cut through the dark, revealing a massive shape covered in frost seaweed. The word Komso was still there, faded, but alive. As they approached the command section 1, divers' sonar picked up a faint ping, slow, rhythmic, like breathing. They dismissed it as interference. But when they played it back later, it pulsed, steady and human. "I don't believe in ghosts," one diver wrote in his log. But down there, something was alive. Not metal. Not current. Something else. The sound was never released. But those who heard it said, they felt it, not fear, but sorrow. The sea, they say, keeps secrets best. It swallows ships, men and truth alike. Yet some memories refuse to drown. There's a saying among Russian sailors: steel may be cold, but steel remembers. And steel does remember. During storms, Research vessels still detect faint echoes, tiny metallic heartbeats, rising from the deeps. Let's call it current displacement. Old sailors call it something else. That's Komsomolets, they whisper. She still answers. On the coast near Murmansk stands a monument. 49 names carved into stone, weathered by wind and snow. Each winter, frost buries it. White, leaving only one black line. They did not return, but they never left. A veteran once came there with an old radio. He switched it on. Static filled the air. His voice trembled. If you can hear me, know that we still remember. No reply. Only the wind. And maybe, for a brief moment, a whisper beneath the waves. Perhaps somewhere, 1,000 meters down, the Komsomolet still lives. Not as a machine, but as memory itself. The sea is calm now. The sky turns gray. And from the depths a single sound returns, a soft, steady ping, like a heartbeat that refuses to die.